Good afternoon, everybody. Graveless here with another Terra Invicta tutorial, this time on the early game to mid-game technology transition. In the last video, we discussed a lot of technologies you want to get in the early game in a variety of ways, and now we're talking about going to the mid-game. Now, the big thing that happens in the mid-game is that you are actively fighting the aliens and defending yourself and taking offensive missions. This means that the majority of mid-game technology is going to be focused on space combat. And I think there's a pretty obvious reason why. So let's get into it. First, we're going to talk about what techs you really want to have to make your mid-game transition successful. More advanced players, you can obviously, go to mid-game at the beginning with Railgun Mark 1s held together with duct tape. This is not about advice there. So let's go over all these techs. So first one you really want to have, quantum encryption. This gets you your 6th counselor. It also gets you the unlocks for a tremendous number of important mid-game techs. I really think that this is really vital to have for this. Next up, directed space research. This gives you your tier 2 science facilities, and you use this to dramatically improve the overall rate you're researching. On the Earth side, you want great nations for whichever big unifications you want to be building for what you're doing on Earth. We also want to be going towards Tier 3 HAB cores, Tier 3 power, and the SpaceWorks module. SpaceWorks is the Tier 3 shipyard. It is what really enables you to start doing mass spaceship production. Other Tier 3 modules, depending on what they are, more or less important. And in fact, for the most part, I recommend you ignore Tier 3 modules and instead fill all these extra slots with cheap Tier 2 modules. There are some specific ones that I'll be going more towards late game when you have the resources to truly build those out. But the answer is Tier 3 cores, fantastic. Tier 3 power facilities, also fantastic. SpaceWorks, fantastic. Tier 3 farm is great if you have the population needed for it. Tier 3 nano factory, very good, but takes a long time to build. Tier 3 mine, selectively build. Tier 3 research campus, maybe. Tier 3 other science facilities, absolutely not. They are not worth it. And admin modules are also a maybe, because of how much they need. The last one is your basic resources producers. This is Space Assault Doctrine to get your Marine barracks to give you as many ops as you would ever desire, Networked Propaganda for Communications Hub for Influence, and Space Tourism to Tourist Birth. This has a boost cost, but it converts at a rate of 1 boost equals 100 money per month. And this is one of the main reasons why you have some nations continuously building boost. Oh, tea of the day today is the Colombian chocolate chili tea. Still very tasty. Now, on ship techs, for a successful mid-game transition, you really do want all of these at minimum. We want space navies. This is far enough in that we have pretty much every hull we want. But this gets us the SpaceWorks, which allows you to build your ships, and the Flag Bridge, which lowers the MC cost of a fleet. We want diamond droids for adamantine armor. This is the best armor you're going to get in the game for quite some time. The only better armor is hybrid armor, and that requires a lot of exotics, which you probably don't have, so we're ignoring it. Applied artificial intelligence for targeting computer Mark III, and your defensive drives. I'm going to jump off my overlay for a second. Now, all of these are hovering at around the same portion of the tech tree. But over here is advanced fission systems, which gets you... this locks all of the good mid-game defensive drives. It's a question of how many other technologies after that you want to get. Going back in, Firestar Drive is the best pure advanced fission systems drive. It does have a % unlock chance, but any of the 3 you get straight from advanced fission systems will work. Firestar is just the best. If you have a particularly high Fizziles income per month, you can instead go for the Poseidon Lantern. I'd really recommend over 100 per month if you're thinking about doing this. It's a pricey drive because it primarily uses Fizziles as propellant, but it is very good for this purpose. And if you go into heavy pulse propulsion, you can grab the H. Orion drive, which I honestly think of as, if you get this drive, you don't need anything else for a defensive drive for the rest of the game. This will handle literally everything you care about for orbital defense. But you will have noticed that there's something missing from here, and that something is weapons. Let's go to weapons, because this is where mid-game gets complicated. In mid-game, you're going to be facing entire alien fleets. There will be agile little ships that run around and try and flank your ships. There will also be the alien line ships, which stay in formation with heavy armor, heavy weapons, and a lot of point defense. These require different weapons to reliably kill. On the quick agile ship side, we have Advanced Missile Warfare Doctrine is the easiest way. These are missiles with a lot of Delta V, so they zoom out at this ship and kill it even while it's trying to maneuver. Athena, Hestia, and Zeus are all good. You kind of can use any of them depending on your priorities. Like, they're all really solid. The notable one... Oh, I realize I just typoed powered into powers. It's nuclear-powered fragmentation for Zeus. Yay, typos. And answer, any of these three work. They all do the same thing. Hestia is likely to over-penetrate, but can also go back around to loop or redirect itself to another ship if the ship dies. Athena and Zeus are just big damage. They're better at different things. Athena is better at killing high armor. Zeus is better at killing low armor. So, like, you do either. I am full of typos on this. I just noticed that. I just noticed ultraviolet is also a typo. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, other options are beam weapons, which is ultraviolet combat lasers plus arc lasers to get UV laser cannons. Technically speaking, particle beams and green arc lasers are the lowest you can do to do this, but they are substantially worse than UV arc laser cannons and antimatter particle cannons. I'm just going to fix this right now. This is ultraviolet combat lasers plus arc lasers. Into UV arc laser cannon. You do not want to use regular UV lasers, you want to be using UV arcs. The other option is antimatter weaponry into antimatter particle cannon. Any of these three will do the job of killing flankers. It's sort of a question of which one you really want to be using. The more missiles you use, the more MC inefficient your fleets will be, and the more micro you might need to do in order to actually win battles. UV versus antimatter is complicated. UV arc lasers can upgrade to UV phasers, which are still pretty much the best at the job of flanker killing in the game. Where antimatter particle cannon a little bit better than UV arc lasers in most circumstances, especially because it can start harassing line ships too, even if it can't reliably kill them. Over on line killers, well, advanced missiles can still do this. You primarily want to be using Lancehead missiles here, which cannot hit flankers. They will kill if they hit, but they mostly can't hit. Or a metric ton of flanker killers. Like, mid-game is where I prefer in Missile Doctrine to have double the amount of MC spent than the enemy does on my fleet. And this is where that really starts hurting you in terms of both your fuel economy and your MC economy. You have a choice. Advanced rail cannon and advanced rail batteries. These are Mark III rail, or coil guns plus high-temperature superconductors to get improved coil cannon and improved coil gun batteries. These are Mark II coils. Mark III coils are better, but I find frequently not worth it, which is why advanced rail or Mark II coils are the real recommendation. Technically speaking, there is the option of use plasma to weaken the nose on these and kill them with lasers or particle beams. I think this is more of a meme than it is a good suggestion, but it does work. There is one, to jump off of the overlay for a second here, these are all over the place. Like, arc lasers are here. Ultraviolet combat lasers are up here. Takes pretty long to get to, but antimatter weaponry is over here. Like, these are all over the place, and almost everything in here and like this section of the tech tree has to do with getting your combat systems and your mid-game combat into late-game combat working. Down here is applied artificial intelligence. This is what you need for targeting computer Mark III. It also gives you a bunch of selectively useful space technologies, but at this point, you slowly increase your mining techs, like rapid fissile enhancement increases your space mining. There's a lot of different things you can do, and going over the entirety of the mid-game tech tree would take multiple hours. But if you've gotten to the mid-game, I think it's safe to say you probably know at least a little bit what you're doing, which is why I'm being a little more direct in specific techs. Like, ring habs and colony habs require a giant swath of things to get to, as another example. But going on to one of the more complicated topics in mid-game, offensive drives. What you need to defend against the aliens is pretty easy. What you need to go after the aliens is a lot trickier. For MC2 ships, which is to say you're sending a swarm of missile monitors out or similar, you can use the Helicon drive. It's in the early game recommended drives video. It still is correct even in the mid-game. For anything heavier, though, we have to start talking about mid-game into end-game drive transitions. So all of the recommended drives here require magnetic nozzles. I'm going to jump into the tech tree again to show you where that is. These are all expensive in terms of the amount of research they cost. Magnetic nozzle is right up here, requiring magnetic plasma confinement and deep space propulsion concepts. It costs 50,000 research points. This allows you to use antimatter and fusion drives at all. It's basically the core technology for your mid-game to late-game and end-game drive transition. But continuing on. Options you have. If you have a lot of monthly fissile income, at least 100, more than 200 if you want to use it to the endgame, you can just go for the Poseidon Torch. I'm showing off the effects of that drive right now in my Humanity First Earth Science Research playthrough. It's an amazing drive. It is the first drive that is endgame capable, but it is incredibly expensive to fuel. Like, no, seriously, don't even bother looking at this drive unless you have, 100 or 200 plus fissile income per month. You will bankrupt yourself and your fleets won't work otherwise. If you're not doing that, you have a choice to make. And that choice is, do you go antimatter on one hand, or do you go fusion on the other hand? Both of them are good. Fusion is arguably better for most players because it doesn't require an infrastructure component, but if you went for the antimatter weaponry path for your weapons, you already have, you're already part of the way up the antimatter line, and going further up it is going to be relatively less expensive, so column A, column B, which one do you want to go for? And that's where you need to make a choice. For the antimatter line, antimatter mass production... God, I am full of typos. I am just full of typos. That is not plus antimatter production. That's supposed to be antimatter propulsion. Give me a second here. Why? I know the answer why. It's because I'm distracted by packing for a vacation. Propulsion. Let me see if I can get that roughly online. Or aligned. This is what I get for using Paint for this rather than a better program. Anyway, yep, which gets you the Antimatter Plasma Core Torch. This is the first good antimatter drive. It's not going to get you to the end game, but you have to upgrade all the way up through the antimatter drives to get to end game anyway. And then there's fusion. The technical answer is you can pick any fusion line and make it work. Like, all of them are endgame viable. It is not all of them are endgame good. But my main recommendation for this is that we have our high thrust drive handled with advanced fission systems, go for your offensive drive in fusion, and there's two primary lines to do that. If you have low monthly research, which is I define at this point as less than 10k RP per month, go for Z-Pinch. This is the fastest to get to endgame fusion line. It has terrible thrust, but a very good exhaust velocity, so it has the efficiency to get you out into the outer solar system still very quickly. The first one for mid-game, I'd say you need to go up Z-Pinch techniques and deuterium fusion, along with magnetic nozzles, which all of these need, to get the Zeta Deuteron Lantern. If, however, you have a ton of monthly research, greater than 20k, you can start going straight for the big boy, which is the Helion Nova Torch. This requires almost twice as much research as the Zeta Drive does, which is the reason why I only really recommend doing this if you have a lot of monthly research, because it will take you a long time to get there. But the Helion Nova Torch starts being usable at Inertial Confinement Fusion Reactor 5. It becomes good at 6, and depending on how you count it, the third best drive in the game at 7. So, this is the expensive in terms of research points, but gets you the best things in the game line. The Zeta line is a lot cheaper and gets you to endgame fast, even if it ultimately gets eclipsed. Antimatter has the second best drive in the game, but it has a significant infrastructure requirement. And that's basically your choice between these three lines. Second antimatter, second best drive in the game, intensive infrastructure requirement. Zeta, fourth and fifth best drives in the game, way cheaper on research. Inertial confinement, first and third best drive in the game, very expensive in research. And you need to make your pick. And how you pick depends on how you like to play and how your game is going. So that's sort of it. It's very funny to say that the mid-game transition video is so much shorter, but really it's pick your drive, pick your weapon, or pick your weapon set, and start fighting in space. A majority of the game, just getting off of this for an example, a huge portion of this game is going to be waiting for the next step. As you can see, antimatter mass production costs 125,000 research points. Antimatter propulsion, another 100,000 research points. This is on top of, whatever the projects cost. Meanwhile, Z-Pinch techniques, 50,000. Fusion also has a 50,000 point sink that does nothing besides allow you to research things in it. Magnetic nozzles, 50,000 that you need all of. Deuterium, 75,000. You're going to be sitting here for the better part of a year waiting for each of these new global techs to go on. And this is one of the reasons why how much RP you have really, how much RP you have determines a lot about how functional anything you do is. Zeta and Antimatter take roughly the same cost. The Poseidon Torch is peanuts compared to them. Poseidon Torch gets online for half the RP either Zeta or Antimatter start being useful for, and a quarter of the RP it takes for them to get to their endgame techs. And Inertial Confinement Fusion, it's starting to get online is where Zeta and Antimatter are in their endgame, and its endgame costs twice as much as their endgame does. But I'll be doing a much more in-depth guide on fusion systems, and if you want to do something weird, pick another fusion line. Go for it. They all actually function into endgame. It's just a question of what gets you there fastest. Anyway, this is Graveless. You guys aren't going to hear from me for probably about a week because I'm going on vacation. And I hope you all enjoy. I hope you're having fun in the snow, and see you next time. Bye.